aboard Pink Monorail. I'm your pilot, Michelle Valladolid, and next to me is my co-pilot, Noe Valladolid.
Hey everybody.
Last time, we talked about Disneyland 1967. This time we're going to discuss Project X, or, as it's known now, the Walt Disney World Resort. Let's go back a few years to 1964. Ever since building Disneyland, Walt wanted to build something better without the real-world motels, shops, and restaurants that quickly surrounded Disneyland. He didn't want to build another Disneyland at first, even though this would give him a chance to build the big castle he originally wanted for Disneyland but couldn't afford. Disneyland was such a hit, people immediately began speculating about a second park. But Walt didn't follow pigs with pigs, and he denied everything. Brazil, St. Louis, Washington, D.C., Niagara Falls, and, yes, Texas, all sent interested parties to talk to Walt. Walt considered St. Louis, but the backers insisted beer be sold there, so he said no. He didn't want any place snowy. He didn't want it outside of the USA. Everybody got a no, an official no anyway. Unofficially, they landed on a place in Central Florida and started buying up land under assumed names like Bay Lake Properties. For a really great telling of this chapter of Disney history, I strongly recommend Dick Nunes's book, Walt's Apprentice, Keeping the Disney Dream Alive. They approached landowners, offering a little more than what the land was worth, but not the inflated rates that would have come with the name Disney. Rumors flew. It was Lockheed. It was the U.S. government. It was Disney. An intrepid Orlando Sentinel reporter, Emily Bavar, interviewed Walt at Disneyland's Tencennial. He lied and said it wasn't him, and here's why. He then described the area so well, Bavar was convinced he was lying, and she was right. The Orlando Sentinel broke the news, then featured an op-ed backing it up. Disney came clean. They had bought 27,000 acres, about 43 square miles of land. Walt called it the blessing of size, and they held a press conference where Florida officially welcomed Walt Disney. 43 square miles.
That's pretty big. That's like the city of San Francisco.
That's twice the size of Manhattan.
Pretty big.
That's pretty big. But there was a lot of work to do. There would be a magic kingdom at the top of the property, and right in the middle would be experimental prototype City of Tomorrow, Epcot, the City of Tomorrow. Most of the land would be left to nature, with a small amount for hotels, a campground, a gas station, a Stoleport landing strip, and freeway access in public areas. Backstage, there would be sewage treatment and other infrastructure. Our old pal Judith Adams, who said Walt built Disneyland because he was sexually repressed, doesn't know the difference between Bay Lake and Seven Seas Lagoon, but still had a lot of good information to add. Walt's parents were married in Kissimmee, which may have made the area stand out. Two more names Disney used to buy land were Tomahawk and Compass East. The total cost of the land was $5 million, or about $200 an acre. That would be a little over $50 million today, a bargain compared to what the land is worth now. While the worth of the land today is not disclosed, Disney's total land worth is estimated at $1.2 billion. The cost to build Walt Disney World from scratch today would be in the tens of billions of dollars. At the time of the press conference, Walt said they didn't have a name for the resort as of yet, and Disney World was the name of an internal cast publication. Judith says, Walt Disney World's rise from the Florida swamps would be an unprecedented engineering feat. The tropical, boggy terrain's water table rests on a stratum of porous limestone rock through which moisture continuously seeps, creating underground caverns. The caverns eventually collapse, resulting in large surface sinkholes. Just to stabilize the building sites, the Disney engineers had to drain off the swamp water, develop a system of canals for continuous drainage, dredge out the unstable muck that seeps into the caverns, pump off all the water and muck to an off-site area, then bring in stable, non-indigenous material, like concrete, to compress into the sinkholes and shape the area to the contours specified by the designers. Thank you, Judith. You do great work when you're not trying to psychoanalyze people.
Now, before you get to the next part of this story, let's take a break and let's listen to a word from our sponsors. we're back.
44 miles of canals were built to ensure that the landscape as built stayed that way. Bay Lake was so polluted that they drained it, cleared it of weeds and muck, and brought up a layer of white sand from underneath it for beaches. They pumped in water from underground to fill it and stocked it with 70,000 fingerling bass, whose grandchildren you can still catch.
Oh boy.
Seven Seas Lagoon was entirely man-made, and 2 hotels were built, the Contemporary Hotel and the Polynesian Hotel. There was supposed to be a tall tower at the Polynesian, but it got cut from the budget until 2024. Walt died before the land was cleared, but he did take several trips to the property and walked around. There was going to be an Asian-themed hotel built, as well as a Venetian resort and a Persian-Iranian resort. Due to the 1970s oil crisis, these were never built. In the mid-80s, the Grand Floridian Resort was built. The Asian resort would be Thai-influenced, with a tower and surrounding buildings. The Venetian would feature canals and gondola rides and a replica of St. Mark's Square. The Persian resort would have had classic Middle Eastern architecture with spires and domes. Seeing what happened with Persia, aka Iran, is kind of a good thing it was never built. The South Pacific Resort became the Polynesian or Polynesian Village, and Frontier Village or Diamond D Dude Ranch would become the nearby Fort Wilderness Campground.
Now, Shelley's sort of just flying through Project X because we don't want to take too much time talking about the construction of the actual park itself. But one of the things I remember reading in one of Shelley's books was that construction was happening so quickly and on such a massive scale that theft of building materials, theft of tools was rampant because there were thousands of employees and contractors going back and forth through all of this property that workers could just steal stuff in their work trucks and in their lunchboxes or whatever, including the building materials and the tools, that they couldn't stop construction because they were on such a tight deadline that they figured out it would be too slow and too time consuming to up the security, to take these people to court, to prove that they had stolen property and whatnot, so that they were just replacing everything as fast as they could, and the employees were just stealing on their way out all of these things. And of course they thought they were getting away with murder, but they would never be hired again in the state. And I don't know if anything happened to them legally after. But it was interesting that it was such a massive project that Disney was willing to write off a lot of the material and tools and equipment during construction just because it was cheaper to keep buying new stuff and keep going rather than stop and get their stuff back. So that's kind of fascinating.
In a Disney Parks blog interview with Howard Rowland, first head of hotels for Disney, remember, the Rathers ran the hotel in California.
Right.
Rowland sat down with Disney PR manager Andy Zakowski and talked about working on the Contemporary and Polynesian hotels, working with John Hench and Richard Irvine. John Hench, there's an interesting story. Walt always said in their meetings at Imagineering, there was no head. Mm-hmm. There was no leader. Everyone was equal.
Right.
And everyone's ideas were equal.
Sort of like the Round Table in King Arthur.
Very much like that. After Walt died, John Hench said, I'm in charge. Nobody argued with him.
It became a rectangle table.
So he became in charge of all the Imagineering projects.
And he could play favorites if he wanted.
He could. Rowland got the job by writing a letter to Roy Disney and saying he wanted it. He traveled all over, hiring hotel staff, monitoring production of the hotel rooms in the steel plant, which the hotel rooms at Walt Disney World, the first ones, were built by U.S. Steel, like the Contemporary Resort.
And they were modular.
They were modular. The hotels were built and furnished, and then slid into place in the hotel like a drawer.
Yeah, like a giant crane would come in and just slide those rooms into the massive frames of the hotels.
And then they rusted into place.
Yeah.
They were never meant to be removed again.
Oops.
He also ordered appliances and everything in between. All the decor, everything that you see from the 1971 versions of the hotels, that's all Howard Rowland.
He took his job seriously.
He met Mary Blair in a jet hangar in St. Louis where she was drawing out the mural. the mural. He moved to purchasing right before the hotels opened, but they have his touch all over him. His window is above Casey's Corner. The Florida project construction was started in 1967 and completed in October 1971. The Magic Kingdom started as a series of corridors on the first floor called utilidors. On top of this first story, they built the second story, the actual park. Actual park construction started in 1969. They built a solid waste disposal and energy conversion plant. Waste was heated in a chamber to decompose it into gases and a solid residue. The gases were then burned to create energy. Inorganic residue was cooled and treated. Pollution control measures such as scrubbers were used to reduce air pollution. Reedy Creek Improvement District was the government entity covering the Walt Disney World property. It was their own governments. Disney ran Reedy Creek. They developed solar energy infrastructure, power plants. Our friend Judith called it the Vatican City of Leisure and Entertainment. The central energy plant used jet turbines fueled by natural gas or diesel oil to produce electrical power. Exhaust gases passed into boilers and absorption chillers to produce hot water and chilled water for air conditioning. Also provided compressed air used in audio animatronic hydraulics. The sewage plant sludge was treated for 14 days, then sent to the tree farm, which Disney had a tree farm, where they grew trees and also made topiaries.
Right. Because it's a massive property, you're constantly going to be needing new shrubbery.
That's right. AVAC, Automatic Vacuum Collection for trash, developed by AV Central Sug, a Swedish company. It was installed in Swedish Hospital in 1961. Disney is the largest in the world and first in the USA. It transfers from charging stations into vertical storage sectors. Waste is dropped into vacuum tubes, which whisk away garbage to central compacting plant. It goes about 60 miles per hour. The trash goes into parcels and is incinerated. Walt Disney World was the vacation kingdom of the world, with a theme park, camping, water sports, golf, tennis, even bird watching. Walt's City of the Future was forgotten, to be brought up in the future as a theme park. Walt Disney World opened to the public October 1st, 1971, but the grand opening celebration didn't happen until October 23rd. The People Mover remained an attraction, but the monorail became practical transportation across Seven Seas Lagoon. You can also take a ferry boat. It had 2 tracks, one local monorail that stopped at all the hotels, the other the express monorail to the TTC. Now, the TTC was the Ticket and Transportation Center. It was the heart of what happened when you got to Walt Disney World before buses took over. Stupid buses. You bought your tickets there, you parked there, and then you got on a monorail or a ferry to take you to the Magic Kingdom, which back then was just called Disney World.
Right.
There was a sense of arrival and a buffer from the outside world, and Walt finally got his big, beautiful castle, though he wasn't around to see it.
So we're going to take another pause right now and listen to some more words from our sponsors. As always, we would appreciate it if you supported the companies that supported us. And we're back.
This time on the Pink Monorail podcast, we talked about Project X. Next time, we'll talk about the Magic Kingdom and Walt Disney World in the 1970s.
Well, thank you for that, Shelly. So that's a look at the secretive Project X, which had the most important thing, I think, is that they had the giant vacuum tubes to take the trash out of there, because that's much better and much more sanitary than seeing garbage trucks driving back and forth through Disney World.
Yeah.
So, Shelly, if people want to support this podcast, where can they go to support it?
You can go to patreon.com/fab, F-A-B.
And if people want to read more of your history dives into Disney and the Disney parks and other things, where can they go to read your work?
They can go to micechat.com, the happiest place in cyberspace.
Now, right now, I'm working on a series of Hulk stories, but I also write about Disney and video games. If you just search for the Street Writer Podcast on Google, it should take you to my page.
Hulk is Disney.
Oh yeah, Hulk is Disney now, I suppose.
Yep.
Used to be Universal, used to be Marvel. Anyhow, thanks for listening in on this episode of the Pink Monorail Podcast, Manufacturing the Magic, A History of the American Theme Park. We'll see you on the next episode. Have a great day. A special thank you to our sponsor, Circa 1955. Luxillume is a small business created by our friend Nicole. She makes fragrance oils, sprays, and non-GMO pure soy wax candles with no additives or fillers. Every run is made in small batches, ensuring the best quality possible. She also does custom orders for special events such as graduations, birthdays, and weddings. Nicole is also a huge Disney fan. She has a line called Circa 1955, which celebrates Disney theme parks, movies, and animated features. If you are looking for the perfect gift to surprise a fellow Disney fan, then be sure to visit luxaloom.com. If you enter the code PINK15 at checkout, that's PINK15, then you'll get 15% off your first order. Be sure to support a small business that also gives back to the community. The Pink Monorail podcast is part of the Jim Hill Podcast Network. This includes the Epic Universal Podcast, The Disney Dish, Fine Tuning, Marvel Us Disney, and I Want That Too. Be sure to listen, like, and subscribe to the entire catalog. You're going to love it.